Hi YouTube, National AAA here. Today I'm starting a series of tutorial videos for you guys. I'm starting off by making this quick intro video for gamers who are curious about AOE4, but they haven't gotten back into the game yet for whatever reason. Maybe you haven't pulled the trigger and started grinding ladder yet, you're anxious, whatever it is, this is the video for you. So if you're like me, you played the game at launch with your friends maybe, played a lot of team games, you played through the campaigns, then fell off at some point. The game wasn't as interesting to watch as StarCraft and other fast-paced games that you enjoy playing, watching, whatever. The 1v1 wasn't as engaging, right? I've even heard some people refer to watching Age of Empires is about as exciting as watching paint dry. And while that sounds pretty extreme, guess what? I actually agree with that. I don't really watch competitive Age of Empires myself, never particularly enjoyed 1v1 especially, despite how obsessed I was, with 1v1 in StarCraft 2. Played it for 12, 14 years, I think. So what's so interesting about Age of Empires? Maybe you've been wanting to play a new RTS for a while now. IC2's run its course, you've been playing it for a long time. You still have to watch it on occasion, we need a new game to play ourselves, right? AOE4 can be daunting though, right? There's 16 different civilizations now. How could you possibly have time to learn them all? This is actually what kept me from coming back to the game as well. I'm right there with you guys. Bear with me. One day I read some patch notes and learned that there was a free-for-all mode added into the game. I was like, perfect, okay. I can go back in. I don't really want to play team games since my friends don't play anymore. I can go back in by myself. I can go into a game with no strings attached, no expectation of winning, losing, whatever. I'm probably going to lose for sure. There's no ladder anxiety, nothing staked on the outcome. So we start playing a few free-for-all games. What we found was something way more interesting, right? Free-for-all in Age of Empires is way more interesting than free-for-all in StarCraft, and I'm going to explain why right now. Every single game, the map is completely random. The map cycles between two maps, land mega random and mega random, the second one just being the possibility of water and more resources on the map. Beyond that, there's a new game mode that's been added to all quick match modes, including FFA, called Nomad. And what Nomad means is that you're just basically starting with a few villagers and you have to kind of scout out, do some early scouting around the map and find a place to build your town center. So this adds a dynamic element to the game where you might go for some resource-rich location, but you might risk, other players spawning nearby you, such as in the middle of the map or in some, other place where there's valuable resources. You might have to take some early fights, right? And you're going to compete for those resources. Aside from that, finally, there's this new game mode only in free-for-all, which is called Dominion mode. And what Dominion mode is, it means a monarch spawns for each player, a unit which can take a few hits, but it can't attack. It can be garrisoned inside your buildings, but if it dies, you instantly lose the game. Now, I'll admit, this was extremely frustrating for me at first, when I didn't understand how best to protect my monarch. And there are times when I still don't, and mistakes get made, right? But the thing that's interesting about this feature is that every time you kill an enemy monarch, you get plus 50 maximum population. Just as you do in StarCraft, your max population is normally 200, but it goes plus 50 for each enemy monarch you kill. So this heavily incentivizes aggression. Players won't just sit back and turtle as you would probably normally expect in an FFA. You really want to get out there, because if you have a player with 300 or 400 population, they're obviously going to be able to crush a player with 200 population, unless that player gets very creative, which is another interesting dynamic in the game. When you add it all together, free-for-all kind of feels like playing a mini battle royale, but in RTS form instead of a shooter. This fills a very unique niche that you can't find elsewhere in competitive gaming. So anyways, the point is, while I was expecting FFA to just help me learn, it inspired me to reactivate making YouTube videos on this channel. I started playing it earlier this year. Since I started, I've played over 600 free-for-all games. Now 600 games, that might not sound like a lot, but keep in mind each free-for-all game can span anywhere between, say, 40 minutes up to 2 hours, right? And those are long games for the most part. It's even inspired me to watch other people play free-for-all and even try some of the other game modes that I previously mentioned I wasn't as interested in, such as 1v1 and stuff like that. So anyways, what's preventing you from coming back and diving into AOE4? Like I mentioned earlier, there are a lot of civs to learn. That's pretty daunting, right? Well, not really. You have to remember, AOE civs are not at all like races in StarCraft. They all follow a very similar template, and despite the various nuances in their technology and economy, let's take a look at this diagram I found. I like to think about it like this. In the early game, it's simply rock, paper, scissors. Horse counters archer, counters spear, counters horse. Then you level up to the next tier and add in knight, men-at-arms, and crossbow. Knights and men-at-arms are armored and tankier units, so you need a unit that pierces armor like the crossbow to counter them. Finally, you level up to the final tier and add in these siege units. We're not going to talk about those because they're actually getting a complete rework in a few weeks. So that would just be confusing at this point. We won't talk about them. We'll save that for another video when we go over all the new changes in the patch and everything like that. But anyways, that's all you really need to know. Yes, there's a bunch of unique units and upgrades for many of the civilizations. However, many of them are just rebranded units with different names but are functionally the same thing. For example, the Man-at-Arms has a counterpart in some civs called the Gulam or the Palace Guard. But for most purposes, you can think about them as the exact same unit. There are some subtle differences, but you don't need to worry about that too much. It's basically the same thing. Anyways, that's it. I hope this helped, guys. Please let me know what you think in the comments below. If you're considering coming back to Age of Empires 4, I'd really love to hear about it. What's your experience? What's your feelings on it? I know everyone's experience isn't exactly the same as mine, so please let me know what you are thinking about. And if you like this video, please hit the like and subscribe button, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.